here. Welcome to Wadih Wednesday. Hello, hello. Today we're going to talk about friendships and we're going to talk about conflicts within Arab families and how that may impact your friendships. So we are going to start in just a few minutes. I always like to start the lives a little early. So as you're hopping on, I will encourage you to think about what do friendships mean to you and who were your first friends growing up and how do you think those earlier experiences shaped uh, how you interact with individuals and friendships as adults? So that's the topic of today. And you're in for a interesting live because we're really going to dive deep into our friendships and our connections and our emotional connections and what does that mean within our cultural context. So welcome everybody. For those who are new here, my name is Tiffany Tuotah. I'm a marriage and family therapist. I am the founder of Community for International Arab, and my platform, or our platform as I like to call it, our community is really about how we can come together collectively and heal and create awareness around some of cultural issues that may be specific to our culture. Now, before people come out in the comments, Mita's not here today. So she shields me from a lot of the nonsense that happens in social media. And that's why we will be getting off of social media soon. And we'll give you more updates on that later. Now, with that said, if I can ask community members that have been on the lives for a while, if I can ask you to do me a favor, if someone writes something fil Arabi and it's rude or nasty or whatever it is, can you please flag them? I would really appreciate that. And if there's any comments relating to all the men out there, I'm letting you know, be respectful, okay? You will be blocked and deleted, and I don't put up with that. Mita shields me from that, but I will go off. And people will tell me, why do you care? Ignore. No, I'm a full believer in public shaming. So when it comes to social media, so have some respect, have some dignity, have some integrity. And if you think you're going to come on here to intimidate me, try and put me down and who I am as a woman, that's just not going to fly here. So save yourself, get off the live. Okay. So those are some of the ground rules. Yeah, I already lost a few people. That's great. Good. All right. We've got one more minute before we start. Where's everyone coming in from? Oh my God, Mita, what is happening? Let's see. Where's everyone coming in from? Is Egypt in the house? Where are people coming in from? Let me know. No, people are hopping on. Today we're going to talk about friendships. As people are joining, hi, Isabel. Oh, let's see. Is that Saudi in the house? Love that. Who else? Makkah. Okay. HS Functional Cooking. Norway's in the house. Let's see. Hello. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Marxie's in the house. Zen 33. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. As people are joining in, today's live is going to be about Arab family conflict and how it impacts our friendships. So how many of you, just by a show of hands, as we get started, lost friendships or close relationships with your cousins as a result of your father not talking to his brother, or your mother not talking to her sister, or your grandfather not, yeah, thank you, two flowers, yep. How many of you, only one person? It's hard to believe. How many people have lost cousins, close cousins, or friendships as a result of family internal conflict? Just one person? All right. Well, let's keep this going. Thank you, two flowers. So we're going to talk about that all the time. Oh, here we go. Vendetta. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. It looks like Hamed. Yes. And then period. Yeah. This is very, very common. So we're going to talk about all the examples you listed also. Yeah, I know. It's unfortunate. So let's get into today's topic. So today on Wadih Wednesday, as we do every Wednesday, we're going to talk about friendships and Arab families and why at times they could feel so complicated. Now, our goal today, let me be clear, it's not to criticize our culture or our families. Never. It's coming from a place of understanding on how the messages you received growing up may still be influencing the way you form and maintain and end relationships as adults. Now, one thing I can tell you as a marriage and family therapist doing this work for over 20 years within our cultural context, I can tell you that many of us struggle with maintaining healthy, loving friendships. And many people have talked to me about feeling isolated, having difficulty making friends. And so it led me to really think about, well, what are the psychological impacts? Like what happened? Why are we struggling in this? Now, some of you may have wonderful relationships. No problem. This is not for you. This is for those that are struggling with relationships. And so you have to remember that the way we learn about relationships in childhood typically become the way we experience relationships in adulthood. Okay, you guys got that? So many of us were raised with beautiful values: loyalty, generosity, family, hospitality, and commitment. Those values are worth preserving. And in fact, there was some memes going around, I think TikTok, Instagram, somewhere, that was saying, people, go get yourself an Arab friend. They are the best. And I believe that when I was watching those memes, I laughed to myself because it's because of our values that make us such wonderful friends. Now, what happens is we typically may overcorrect in that, but that's for another live. So there's beauty in what we've been taught when it comes to friendships. However, alongside those strengths, many of us have inherited relationship patterns that may no longer serve us. Okay. And so today is going to be about you, if you're interested in exploring what relationship patterns are you exhibiting that may no longer be serving you. And it's an invitation for you to simply be aware of them and to give you some context about it. Okay, so let's get started. How many of you have heard this growing up? Now, you can give a thumbs up, heart emoji, whatever you do, okay? Your Arab parents would say, family is all you need. Friends come and go. Bitla'u bishu, right? Your cousins are your best friends. Mahu, why do you want friends? Ibn ammak, bint khalik, right? Don't trust people outside the family. Now, depending on your generation and depending on, now this may be more for like Arabs living in the diaspora. Growing up, we heard, don't trust people outside the family. Now, I came from a very clannish, I know city in Ramallah in Palestine, they were very clannish. In fact, they were like, don't trust people outside this clan. Aren't we all Palestinian? Aren't we all from the same town? So depending on your family, don't trust people outside the family may include just your nuclear family, okay? How many of you have heard blood is thicker than water? Don't tell outsiders our business. Why are you always with your friends? And then the most dramatic one we typically see is you care more about your friends than your family. And that's when you start to see, they start to like do the ultiming, they start to do some of this stuff, right? Now I'm being dramatic because I'm trying to highlight a point that in you trying to pursue friendships, it can be met with this barrage of questioning and statements that you may get emotionally flooded in questioning your own life choices. Okay. Let's see. Someone wrote, it depends on the culture of others, their nationalities, and their virtues. True. I was going to share, and thank you for bringing that up, because we were allowed, at least in my family system, we were allowed, Greek was okay, Armenian was okay, other Arab maybe were okay, right? So yes, I appreciate that. So whenever I talk to Arab families, or I talk about Arab families, it comes from love and respect. We're not blaming anyone. It's about understanding what happened, why our relationship so challenging within our cultural context. Now, we know that historically, and even now in many countries, where survival is dependent on family, collectivism keeps people safe. Coming together keeps people safe. Loyalty protects our communities. And I get that. Reputation mattered because historically, and maybe even now, your reputation of the family brought opportunities, may have brought experiences, may have provided marital opportunities, which would increase the family's survival. So all these things make sense, right? When we're looking at it through a historical lens. Now, trust was built within the family because for many generations, that was the safest place to put it, right? We can all agree that some of these beliefs made sense for that time. Now, the question isn't whether they were adaptive. They were adaptive for that time. The question is whether every one of those messages that you're holding on to or your family's bringing to you today still serves you. This is the question. Is this really necessary for where I'm at in my life? Now, I know growing up as a first generation American in San Francisco in the 70s, a long time ago. I'm a Kharto, not a Sittu, please. Not yet. We weren't allowed to spend time with people outside the family. We were with your cousins on the weekends, after school. They were in your home. We were in their home. And so even thinking about going outside of, you didn't even bother asking in that time. Min marra, you just didn't even ask. That was just something, that was a big no-no. It was just nothing you did. Maybe with younger generations, it's different. But many of you probably have had similar experiences. So when friendships are minimized, when you repeatedly hear these things from your family, that you only need family, your family meets every need for you, and your family may not necessarily be in alignment with your values, but then you're told they are everything to you, and you're not feeling connected. Friendships, any type of friendships you want to make outside of that, you may unintentionally minimize them because you're saying, I need to keep working with these people, my family. I need to keep staying here, when maybe for you and your values and your needs, you may need people outside of the family. In fact, it's healthy to have relationships outside of your family. Now, every time you try and do that, you may feel guilty for every time you spend time with your friends. And in fact, your families may text you, where are you? What are you doing? Maybe you're having a cup of coffee. You're just trying to have some respite from the demands or the expectations from your family. And you just need a little bit of a break. Now, when you get the text messages, people making you feel, well, they can't make you feel guilty, but they will say things that are very manipulative for you to start having thoughts like, I should be home, I should be with my family. Or maybe you get the sense that if I'm choosing my friends, it feels like you're choosing them over family, when that's not the case. Both can be true. So for you to have healthy relationships, part of it is letting go of seeing it as a betrayal of your family, because loving your friends or wanting to spend time with people that have the same interests as you doesn't mean you love your family less. So for Arab parents out there, I'm going to really encourage you, especially when you have little ones, having them maintain healthy friendships is so important for their emotional, social development. And so I know that can bring up fear. I know that it can create some anxiety within you, especially if you're immigrants in a new country. I understand that. Yet if your child has a desire to be with different people, doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means that they want to connect. So I'm going to encourage you to not be the stop sign and say no, but to be the guardrails for them to say, I'm going to allow them to explore friendships in a healthy way that feels safe for you and your family, to be the guardrails and not the stop sign. Okay. Do you guys know what the guardrails are? Bowling, you know how in bowling, you roll the ball down the alley and then it'll go in the gutter. Now, sometimes you could put up the guardrails and then it keeps the ball from going in the gutter. So that's what I mean by that. Okay. So remembering that the expansion is the support system, the friendship is going to make your child, your adult child, better to you when they have things outside of you. Very healthy. Okay. Let me look at the comments. Let me see. Juju, Ashuf. Oh my gosh, excuse me. Guilt for having friends and relationships outside of the family is a very Arab experience. Well, thank you, Juju. I mean, that's why I'm bringing this up, because I see this more often than not. Excuse me, because all my lives come from just what I've observed and seen. So let's talk about that. Let's see, Samia, we're going to talk about what's a healthy relationship a little bit later in the live, but I wanted to give you guys a context of friendships. Now let's go a little bit deeper. Many of us grew up where our cousins, our close family friends, were our first friendships. How many of you have had that? Your first relationships were your cousins, right? They were your cousins. They were your close family friends. Anybody have that experience? Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to respond. Even with who were your first friends growing up? Were they people outside the family? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. 2 flowers in period. Yeah. Your first friends were your cousins. They were your neighbors. They were the people that were in your community, right? And this is experience that many of us have had. Now, losing relationships with our cousins because the adults stopped speaking. Okay. So here you are, you're a kid. Put yourself in the mindset of a child. These are people you see every day. You're spending all your time with them. You have no other friendships, nothing outside of these people. Then one day, mom or dad decide these people are out of your life, that they're gone. They say, we got into mashakil, can't fight, ukhalas, out. So for many of us, these first best friends were the people we celebrated birthdays with, spent holidays together. We had sleepovers. We shared our childhood memories. We had those fun videos that you created or pictures that you had. And typically one disagreement between the parents, uncles, or aunts that happened, khalas, overnight, those relationships are like gone. Not just gone, they are burnt to the ground. And so as a child, you're just told, we don't talk to them anymore. How many of you have heard this? We don't talk to them anymore. They take it to the degree of they're not even a part of our family. If you talk to them, you're choosing them over us. Now, think about as a child, if this was you, the impossible position that places a child in. Now, someone, Two Flowers, you wrote, you lost all my cousins on both sides. Oh, I get that, right? And it's really interesting because now here you are, you didn't create the conflict. You don't even understand the conflict. And the conflict is usually over gosh knows what. And yet you're expected to carry the consequences of that. And that might be your only social support. Even at school, maybe you didn't make a lot of friends or have close friendships in school or people that you would naturally bond with, because a lot of your time was spent with these people that are now completely cut off. And here you are, a child, you psychologically, you begin to learn a very powerful lesson. And this is about relationships can disappear without warning. Conflict leads to permanent disconnection. And love is conditional on loyalty. So these are these are the things you may think about it. Your relationships disappear without warning. Has that happened to you in adulthood? Has any conflict in your adult friendships, did it lead to permanent disconnection? Now, family allegiance, it becomes important when there's more important than the emotional attachment. So for our families, they don't care if you were close to that cousin. They're like, we don't care about that emotional attachment that we wanted you to have. We care about family allegiance. And so what do you do with that? And you have very little control over who stays in your life or not, even as adults. Unless you have that strength within you to say to your Arab parent, like, hey, okay, that's Bankom. Like we're adults now. Like that's not our problem. You guys, that's the funk between into. But that takes emotional maturity on the part of the younger generation to say, okay, that's Bankom. You guys figure that out. But for us, we're still going to maintain our friendship. Again, not because we don't love you, but we understand that you guys handle conflict differently. Now, you may have also difficulty trusting relationships. Many of you, I know I could say this anecdotally through my experience, are conflict avoidant. You will avoid all contact. Avoid all conflict to stay in relationships with people because you're so afraid if there's any conflict. So you'll people please, you'll pretzel yourself to be who you want these people to be, which is very unhealthy because you're afraid that if there's any conflict, you will lose them as friends. And so many times what you're grieving is not the estranged relatives. You may be grieving the childhood friendships that ended before they had an opportunity to choose for themselves. Okay, so you may be grieving friendships that were lost and that you may be trying to find them in your adult relationships. All right, I'm going to stop talking because I want to take a look at the comments and questions. If anyone wants to share anything about this dynamic, let me know, and then we can talk about it. Let's see. I'm just looking at the comments here. I don't know if there are any comments on Instagram. Mita's taking the day off, so let's see. My friends were neighbors and cousins. Yeah, totally. Why is there racism all over the world? Okay, well, that's not relating to the topic, but one thing I can say is the more we disconnect from ourselves and the more that we're not connected with one another, so the more we disconnect with ourselves, most people in our societies today are numbing out with their phones, numbing out with drugs, alcohol, numbing out with sex, retail therapy, focusing on materialism, all these things that we're disconnecting from who we are, which in turn will disconnect you to other people. And then, of course, if people are different than you, or if you're not aware of your own bias, yeah, there's going to be racism, of course. And it's all over the world because we're not a mindful world nowadays. I mean, we're not mindful at all over anything. Everyone wants the quick fix. Nobody wants to really look deep within themselves and ask, why do I feel hatred towards another group of people when they're not doing anything to me? That's an internal process. And racism is taught. Children aren't inherently born racist. So as parents, you may want to take responsibility for not instilling ignorant viewpoints towards groups of people that you may fear. Because anyway, I don't even want to go off on that. Okay, let's say this applies to the opposite. Fights between kids should not affect adult relations. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. It's true, because when the siblings fight, it puts the parents in a very difficult predicament. That's not lost on me. If I could take it a step deeper, this isn't blaming the parents. However, within our cultural, within many Arab families, and it may not be yours, don't come at me in the comments, within many Arab families, the parents did not teach effective conflict resolution. They instilled competition. They may have inadvertently created a dynamic between the siblings that they didn't learn conflict resolution. And many Arab parents are also avoidant. So instead of going to the son or the daughter or the two daughters that are fighting to say, we are a family, we need to figure this out together. How can we help support you, and bring us together? Many Arab parents will just say, oh, okay, we're just going to let it go. Just jama'u ma ba'ad, khalas, just insu, when that doesn't repair relationships. So thank you for that question. Yeah, you lost all your cousins on both sides. Yeah, it's terrible. Do you not think parents should isolate family matters from friendship? Wait. Do you think parents should isolate family matters from friendships? Say more about that. I think that's interesting. I'm just not sure how to approach that. Let's see. Only when one or both grown-ups are evil and childish. Oh my gosh. Okay. It could feel like that, evil and childish. What we're talking about is emotional maturity, and you cannot repair with people typically who are emotionally immature because they don't have they're limited. They don't have that ability to be able to repair a relationship or to lean into conflict resolution. Yeah, and if everyone's in their coping stance or in their reactive dance, there's not much you can do about that. Let's see. I'm just going through the comments here real quick. Okay. All right. Okay. Very good. Okay, tell you. Here we go. So let's continue to talk about when conflict becomes generational, because we know the buzzword of today's generation is we need to break generational trauma. We need to break generational cycles. Well, one of the hardest realities for us to talk about as a community is that sometimes the conflict isn't the biggest problem, because the conflict may be over dollar, or the conflict could be over, at least here in the US, like ard back home, that that 70 people are claiming, and then the conflicts come and it's not even, or sometimes hada haka ishi, or they put you on the wrong table at the wedding, or shu command. Like, what are some of the things? I mean, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but you could see that a lot of the conflict is in the bigger scheme, things that easily could have been resolved if people were open to communicating. Or she didn't call me on my birthday, or she didn't call, or hita masa. I mean, it was like the list goes on and on and on. Okay, طيب ماشي الحال. So it's about how the conflict is handled. Now, many of us watched relatively ordinary disagreements become decades of silence, like decades. A misunderstanding, as I mentioned, money is a big one in our community, a wedding invitation, hurt feelings, a comment someone took personally. And so they excuse my language, they will shit on a 40-year relationship of closeness because someone made one comment, and they will ignore the 40 years of them being together. They said this one comment and khalas, they're out. So it's important to remember that instead of communication, what it's about repair, accountability. How many of you have heard "I'm sorry" as an example? Someone wronged you and you called them out. How many of you have heard the word "I'm sorry"? I think is it متأسف? Can you guys help me out here? Where's my Arabic teacher? Raja, Weninti, I need your help. Is it متأسف? How many of you have heard sorry in your life when a conflict has occurred? You've heard sorry? Okay, good. Oh, or are you agreeing that متأسف? Let's see. And use children against each other, which in my case was so low and unforgivable. Yeah. Yes, this is true, because when we didn't congratulate for my graduation, I felt kind of bad. Yeah, of course. Now, you can feel bad. Now, depending on the people and depending on the relationship, people go through their own things. Now, are you going to throw away a long-term friendship because maybe they didn't congratulate you, or yeah, Abdullah, and you felt underappreciated? Well, part of it is you asking yourself, is this friendship worth salvaging? And only you can, and people make mistakes. A lot of times people don't know how their moving is impacting you. And by the time we say anything, usually it's too late. The resentments are built too strong. So we can see where entire branches of family just completely disappear. And then the younger generation, they don't even know that side of the family. Now, this isn't about minimizing anyone's pain. Your feelings are your feelings, and that's okay. What hurts one person may genuinely be deeply painful. And the issue isn't, sorry, I lost my train of thought. The issue here is about emotional maturity is not about never getting hurt. Emotional maturity is about tolerating discomfort long enough to communicate and to reflect and to apologize when appropriate, and to hear another person's perspective, to rebuild trust when the relationship matters. So you need to remember that if you have, for you to develop emotional maturity, it's for you to say, okay, do I need to apologize here? Okay. It's about listening to one another. I know I've struggled with that. There's some, I will dig my heels in. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to apologize. Da, da, da. And it may take me a while to get to that point, and that's okay. That's how you develop emotional maturity. Now, emotional immature conflict, what does that look like? How many of you guys heard this one? Silent treatment for months or years, right? Brothers won't speak for months or years. Expecting people to read your mind. So they expect you to know that you wanted a certain thing, or a lot of people, again, they may not know. They should know. That's what my dad used to say. They should know. I'm like, well, how are they going to know if you didn't communicate that to them? Beautiful. Okay. Now, this is a big one. Refusing to apologize because it feels like losing. I hear this a lot. Well, if I apologize, it makes their behavior okay. No, you're owning your part. Doesn't make what happened okay, but you're owning your part. That's how you build connection, is through that vulnerability. But what happens within our cultural context, in my experience, professionally and personally, we double down, we triple down, we quadruple down, and then nothing goes anywhere. No one's willing to take a step back and say, okay, maybe I was wrong. And then if the other person says, maybe I was wrong, that's where connection comes. But how many of us have really had that modeling? Okay. Now, this is the defense mechanism. We tend to use the defense mechanism all or nothing. So turning one disagreement into a permanent character judgment. So someone makes one mistake and all of a sudden that's kol hayatum. That's their whole character. They're crap because they did this one thing. And maybe they were in a place of vulnerability. Maybe they were in a bad mood. Maybe they were going through something that they didn't feel comfortable to share with you, because we don't share our vulnerabilities with each other. And then now all of a sudden it's a permanent character judgment. This one I love. We come from a lot of families. They will recruit family members to take sides. How many of you have seen that? They will recruit family members, say, you need to be on my side. You need to be on my side, right? And family members are caught between this, I need to choose sides, when maybe they don't want to choose anybody's side. They want to choose the side of family. And then where is there room for that? When you're in emotional, immature family systems, these conflicts will continue. And then now the children have inherited the adult family conflict. So now they're not talking to maybe the auntie that they loved and felt safe with, and that she smiled at them and gave them that love. Now they have to not be with her, or the uncle that the child may have had fun playing ball with, or now that's gone. And so now the child is saying, I have to inherit, I'm losing people I love, and that made me feel safe. And those people may have been your only safety. So now what do you do with that? We also have this thing, is someone's either completely wrong or completely right. And I'm like, well, somewhere in the middle is the truth. So can you also, somewhere in the middle is the truth. Okay. Now, growing up, many of you may have called this normal. This was completely normal, right? But often it's simply unresolved conflict repeated across generations. So I'm going to stop there and kind of look at the comments, okay? Because many of you, if this is resonating, I want to see if this is resonating with people. The family conflict in your families, and how they have any of you lost an aunt or an uncle or a close cousin that you really loved, and now you're in this divided loyalty? Anybody have that experience? Anybody want to share? I'm tired of me talking. Nobody wants to share? Are you guys taking a minute? I'm sorry. If it's on Instagram, I'm not getting the comments on Instagram. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I need Mita here. Let's see. Okay. Well, if there's no comments, I will just keep going. Okay. All right. So think of yourself. Let's do a little self-reflection exercise. Look within yourself. As you were watching these dynamics, what messages did you receive about friendships? What messages, if you guys wanted to share in the comments, what messages did you guys receive watching your parents and how they interacted in their relationships? What messages did you receive? Did you receive that conflict destroys relationships? So you may be conflict avoidant in your relationships. That you may be in a relationship with someone, whether romantic or a friendship, that love can disappear overnight. So you may be very clingy and wanting them to be close to you, and you may inadvertently suffocate that person because you're so afraid that their love can disappear like that. So you will just hold on to them. Again, that's a trauma attachment you may want to take a look at. Watching these dynamics, pride is more important than connection. So I'm going to gently call out my gentlemen out there that sometimes you may have a friend or even a partner that you really connected with and cared about, and this goes for the Banat too nowadays, I think. Sorry, guys, this goes for the Banat too. That your pride was more important than the connection. And so you may have lost people that were really good for you, that were safe for you and loving, because your pride was more important than that connection you had with them. You may have learned that people leave, and they do, and they may have leave without any kind of talking. Now that is not normal. People and repair doesn't exist. So like I said before, how many of you experienced repair? How many of you experienced repair? Okay. How many of you experienced repair? Hold on one second. I gotta take this. I didn't put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay, there we go. I'm back. Anybody? For those that are writing in Arabic, I'm sorry. Even the translate button is not allowing me to translate. Let's see. All right, let me just keep going. So, where was I? So many distractions today. Okay, so like I said, many of you may not know repair. So how many of you are terrified of conflict, or you repeat the same patterns that you will just cut people off after relatively minor disagreements? Are you the cutter offer, or are you the conflict avoidant? Anybody want to put that in the chat? Somebody asked a question earlier about healthy relationships. They are repair rich. So one of the biggest ideas I hope you will leave today is this: healthy relationships are not conflict free. Okay. Somebody, let me go back. Ultra wrote conflict avoidant. Vendetta wrote both. Yeah, that happens. A little of both. Yeah. Put a little bit of both. Yeah. Very, very common. Love that. So if you want to have a healthy relationship with people, it's about being repair rich. Now, what does that mean? If there's anything I want you to leave with today, is that conflicts occur in healthy relationships. It's normal to have this expectations that conflicts are not going to occur in our relationships. We are all human beings on a human journey, figuring all this out. And of course, there's going to be conflicts as a result of that. Now, repair must be intentional to say, what are we repairing? What is the problem? So you want the problem identified first. And it's not about you or that person or this person. It's like, what is the problem? I'll give an example. I've been feeling very vulnerable. I'm very much the person that will reach out to my friends. I will call them. I will, no matter how busy I am, I'll shoot them a text message. And getting that reciprocity back is challenging during certain points of the friendship. And so when speaking to say, hey, I miss you, I'm the one putting forth a lot of the effort, making the phone calls, the contact, making sure the connection stays viable. And you have to communicate that. Not you're a jerk because you're not calling me, but to say, hey, I miss you. I'm putting forth a lot of effort to stay connected. I'm wondering what's happening. Now, on the other side of that, because I have very good, healthy, solid friendships, they will say, I'm overwhelmed. I was going through a lot. I didn't want to burden you. I feel like I always burden you. And we were able to have a reparative dialogue where I was able to ask for my need. I need a little bit more from you as far as communication. And then I also learned where they were from, which is to offer them a little bit more grace. But because I was feeling vulnerable, that I needed more from my friends, I had to focus on my vulnerability and not projecting that onto people who I love and I care about. Do you guys see that as an example? That is healthy repair. And then they make the effort to reach out, and I make the effort to look within and say, what's causing me to feel more vulnerable or more alone or more isolated, that I'm depending on other people. Okay. And that sometimes people will be there for you, sometimes they won't. How do you take care of yourself in those moments? And so repair, the health of a relationship isn't determined by whether conflict happens or not. It's determined whether both people are willing to communicate, reflect, take responsibility, and rebuild the trust. Now, for your children, right? So for the Arab parent out there with your child, that's why you want to build that trust real early with your kids. You want to be the guardrail and not the stop sign, so that they can come to you that with their need, and you're not suppressing it. You're not shutting them down. You're saying, I'm sorry I hurt you. I reflected that maybe I spoke to you in a way that I was distracted. I was overwhelmed, so that your child knows that it wasn't about them, that their need wasn't the problem, that's how you rebuild with each other. Okay. So now I see this a lot in our Arab dynamic, that you may be the one who's doing all the repair. So that's another dynamic I see. So you're like, okay, I've got the repair thing down, Tiffany. I'm the one that becomes the designated family peacekeeper. And so maybe you're always the one that calls first. You're the one apologizing, probably apologizing for things that you didn't even do just to keep the peace. You may be the one making sure everyone gets together for Eid or Christmas, weddings, birthdays, and you convince everyone, just move on. Let's just be together. Khalas, come on. Now, at first glance, that may look like emotional maturity, and sometimes it is. But eventually, you have to ask yourself, am I repairing relationships, or am I carrying the emotional responsibility for everyone else? Okay. Healthy repair is mutual. So if you're the person emotionally carrying the responsibility for everyone else, that leads to burnout, frustration, resentment, because you're trying to solve for a problem that's not yours. You can only own your part. And if the other people in this dynamic are not willing to own their part because they're emotionally immature, there's not much you can do about that, except recognize that you're not simply repairing, you're over functioning, and you're carrying the emotional labor for everyone and everything in your family. And you're expected to absorb all the hurt. And that's why I talk a lot on this platform that we're absorbers And I'm going to encourage you to just be the observer, that the conflict between a brother and a sister, and you're the third sibling, part of it is you may want to try and help and shift, but you may be carrying that emotional burden. And then those two, they're not even doing the work. They're just like, khalas, I'm not going to deal with them. And that's it. And you're the one carrying all that. I'm going to say, no. Now, you may have parents that will say, be the bigger person, accept the disrespect. They didn't mean it. They'll make excuses for them. No, inti bta'rfi akhuki hik. He gets angry, hik huwa. Okay, fine. Let's just keep the family together. When there is major ruptures, that the family will say, no one's asking, where did the rupture occur? Can we talk about the rupture? Because they may move closer to repair. So, and the role typically of this designated family peacekeeper is praised as, you're the mature one, do it for the family. But eventually, and many of you may already feel this, that being the peacekeeper is exhausting. You're invisible. You become resentful. Many times you being the peacekeeper keeps you away from you and your family and your needs. And that's not emotional maturity. That's emotional burnout. And many of you are burnt out in this family dynamic. And so you may want to ask yourself, if I stopped reaching out, if I stopped apologizing first, if I stopped fixing every conflict, would this relationship still exist? Would it? This question isn't meant to encourage people to cut people off. It's just for you to recognize and be aware. If I stop doing all these things, what would happen in these friendships or in these familial relationships? It's meant to reveal whether the relationship is sustained by mutual effort or one person's emotional labor. Now, it doesn't mean to cut them off. It's for you to recognize, okay, if I'm the one that has to make the effort, then you see it as a choice. I'm choosing to stay in connection with this person, knowing that it's I don't know why my phone, ya Allah. Okay. I cannot wait to get off social media and be on a platform where I don't have to deal with the phone. Okay, Tayyib, where was I? I lost my train of thought. How are we doing, everybody? Waswa Alex, thanks for the live. Oh, I'm glad this was helpful. Let's finish up here. I've got a few more things, but that's okay. I think you guys, I don't want to saturate you with too much information. So when you think about healthy friendships, one of the biggest misconceptions many of us inherited is believing that loving our friends means loving our family less. And it doesn't. Healthy friendships, which I hope all of you will nurture and foster and have, because it's important, especially in today's world, that it provides family what families cannot. And that's perspective. And many of you are in very gaslit situations where you think you're the problem, you're the one that's the issue. And sometimes having friends outside of that give you perspective, they give you belonging, support, accountability, joy, and an identity outside of your family role. You could just be you and you can be free. Now, research, look it up yourself, consistently shows that meaningful friendships improve both mental and physical health. And yes, you can have your partner, yet having friendships outside of your partner is also healthy for your relationships. Now, as a therapist, I can also tell you something. And this is why I created Community for International Arab, is many of you are incredibly lonely. And my hope is that this community reduces some of that loneliness. So many of you are isolated in your feelings. And we know that online community has its limits and real life connections still matter. And how do you find that? With like-minded people, people who can support you and love you. When we are in a family system that won't allow you, many times keeping you home or keeping you with them, they're not even allowing you to explore that for yourself. And that's extremely isolating and very lonely. And so until you have the freedom to be able to, and the autonomy to get that for yourself, this community is always here for you for that. And we're creating more spaces to be able to create more community, real life, not just social media. So healing means expanding your capacity for connection. So if somebody wrongs you, how do you increase your capacity to lean into what was the vulnerability for you and talking to them about it instead of cutting them off or people pleasing or pretending it didn't happen? It means also allowing room for your family. So if you're going to go back home and you're going to visit and you feel guilty, like you need to be with them 24/7 because you don't see them that often, take a deep breath. It's okay for you to go out with your friends once, twice, because that's going to restore you. That's going to fill you. And that's what I'm hoping you can take away from today's live. And emotionally safe people, finding those people that genuinely know you, oh my gosh, it's one of the most healing things you can have, even if it's just one person. The strongest families aren't the ones who never experience conflict. They're the ones who know how to repair. And I don't see that many examples in my life, personally or professionally. So I'm hoping that with each generation, we can get better and better at that so we can have more examples. And that disagreement doesn't have to be lifelong estrangement, that there's always time and room to repair. And so as we end up, I'm going to leave you with a few questions for you to ask yourself this week. Is what messages did I receive about friendships growing up? Do I feel guilty when I prioritize my friends? Do I believe disagreement ends relationships? What does emotional safety actually feel like for me? And you want to lean into your body for that. When I think about the people you feel emotionally safe with, that's going to be your gauge for fostering friendships outside of your family. And what kind of friend and family member do you want to be? Do you want to be, who do you want to be in this dynamic? Do you want to move out of the peacekeeper, designated peacekeeper role and restore yourself? That's okay. Do you want to be the family member causing conflict? Or you may be the truth sayer and they're going to constantly make you the problem, the scapegoat. I have a video on that. Just what do you want? Who do you want to be with it? What kind of friend do you want to be? What kind of person do you want to be? And if it's draining you, you may want to rethink that. So I'm going to end by saying, foster your friendships, understand what's important to you, know that you can love your family and still have your relationships. And I promise you, everyone will be okay. All right. Let's see. We've got 5 minutes. That's all I have for today. Let's see. Anybody have any comments? Let's see. Let's see. Dot says, definitely no peacekeeping anymore. It's exhausting. Oh yeah, it is a bottomless pit that you will go down, and it's just never ending. All right, everybody. I hope you got some takeaways from today's live. Remember, please, we live in a world where there's so much upheaval right now, and we need each other. We need each other. We need each other to show up, to understand where each person's perspective is coming from. We create a better world by reflecting within ourselves, being the person that we want to see. We also can shift by coming together. as Arab people, one Arab world where we come together and love one another and honor one another, forgetting all these differences and all these clans. And if you don't speak Arabic, you're not one of us. Or if you're not of a particular religion, you're not one of us. Or if you're not of a political affiliation, shubarifni, all this stuff that at the end of the day, we're seeing the result of our disconnection from ourselves, from nature, from our family. We're seeing it manifesting in more war, more destruction, more. And then people say, well, how do we end it? Well, we end it by coming together as a community, offering one another hope, by creating a path for the future generation to say, we can do different. And that's what the foundation of Community for International Arab is to create that awareness, be present to one another, be compassionate and loving with one another so that we can create a better tomorrow. And for today, taking accountability for how you move. There's no shame in that because you can always do better. Okay. So I hope to see you again next week. Let's see. How to deal with, okay, you guys are giving me topic ideas. How to deal with losing passion in life and not enjoying stuff you used to before. Yep, we can talk about that. How to deal with casual dating in modern days for someone who's serious. Oh, let me tell you something. I have a whole live on Arabs are not meant for dating in the modern world. So how about this? I will be more than happy to do the dating one. I'll do that next live because I've had that in the coffers, like it's been there. And I don't know why I haven't brought it out, but that might be a fun one. Yeah. Okay, good. You guys like those ideas. Okay, awesome. And then for Fatima, I'll just say quickly, because I know we need to end. When you lose passion in life, and not enjoying the stuff that you used to, it's you may want to take a look at how much stress is happening in your life. Just take a look and explore. Do you just not have enough capacity to find that joy, or are there other things? And I'll encourage you to perhaps go see someone or talk to someone to get a further evaluation if it's really impacting your life. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I appreciate everyone that's joined live, who's participated, all the support of our community. This community truly is for you. And every Wednesday I come here to do a topic, and I'm just humbled by just the amount of support this community has had. So I wish you all the very best. As we say, the light in me sees the light in you. Nawar titnawar. And I hope to see you again next Wednesday, where we're going to talk about dating. Fun. We'll talk about that within our cultural context. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful day, wonderful evening, no matter where you are in the world. Shine your light. Take care.